Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Having a bit of a case of the Tuesdays today. Running a little behind. In fact, Ben, I got to get coffee. Stall, tell everybody about today's show while I go do that.
Get coffee?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell everybody about today's show.
Stall? I'm not used to stalling. It's snowing outside. Well, we're going to have a great show today. Miles Kampf-Lassin will be here from In These Times. And then Marge Halpern will be joining us at 4 o'clock. I'm looking at the snow falling, snowflakes. Marge Halpern will be talking about the big inauguration party. I'm really feeling like having an inauguration party, to tell you the truth. But they're going to have one anyway. They're going to celebrate, so we're going to be talking about that. Indivisible's Marge Halpern. So,
hey, great job stalling.
Dee, what can I tell you? I've been in the game a while. I don't know how to stall.
That'll be available for download, by the way, our interview with Marge Halpern by 7 o'clock this evening at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Live stream chat room. What's happening? How's it going? I'm using a new microphone today. Let me know how it sounds. If I need to turn it up, turn it down, sounds okay, whatever, weigh in, let me know. And your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, January 19th is moments away. Before we do this, let's thank sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. They are sponsors. Thanks, SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. We'll maybe have a commercial for them soon sometime. I don't know. Look for that in the future. Also, the Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader. Check out chicagoreader.com. Subscribe. Ben has a column every week there. Have you ever missed a week of Chicago Reader column?
In my entire life?
At Chicago Reader? Yeah.
You mean only when I've taken a vacation.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I am obsessive. Yeah, I got issues, D. Yeah.
He has issues.
I got issues.
And you can check those issues out. Well, I mean, you can listen to the show and hear them, all the time. But if you want to read them, they're in, that form as well. Go check it out, chicagoreader.com, and subscribe to the Chicago Reader. All right. Do we have a song of the day? Yes, of course we have a song of the day.
Okay.
Jim came in first with the song of the day. Way to go, Jim. We got a Rolling Stones song. Please do not sue us. Ruby Tuesday.
Oh, I love this song. Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday. Could name something on you.
Oh, those are the words that can name something on you?
I forget the words. There was a restaurant called Ruby Tuesdays. Did you know that, D?
Yeah, there still is a restaurant called Ruby Tuesdays. Still around.
Restaurant. I would come in and, the maitre d' would say, may I seat you? And I go, goodbye, Ruby. And he goes, sir, I've heard that joke a million times today.
Please leave. The Ben Joravsky Show. Oh, okay. You all right there? What's going on? The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Ruby Tuesday, January 19th. And live from my apartment in his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, In These Times writer, Miles Kampf-Lassin. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Katie Couric Tuesday, and here's why. Great weekend. You have a great weekend, D?
Yes, I did. It was 2 days ago, but yes, it was a great weekend.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you forgot. I saw One Night in Miami, Run, Don't Walk, ladies and gentlemen, to see it. Great flick. Can't recommend it enough. We're probably talking about it endlessly on this show. May do a whole series on it. Saw the conclusion of Mrs. America, a show that's only about a year old and a little behind the times. So if you haven't already seen it, don't watch to see that one as well. Terry Cosgrove and I are planning a whole show. Terry Cosgrove is the only person I know, D, who loves Mrs. America as much as I do. And we obsessively talked about it over the weekend. Great series. It's still relevant. The issues it touches are still relevant today, politically speaking. So we'll be taking a deep dive in that later, as we will on One Night in Miami. Saw Lupin, the first episode of it. Yes, thank you. It's Lupin, Lupin, Omar Sy, French. That's my French imitation. Love it. I'm back in the groove on the boob tube, D.
Now if we can get back in the groove with current sayings in the year 2021, the boob tube.
Yeah, it's been a rough time. I haven't really had a show I really loved, and I really love Mrs. America, and now I love Lupin. Anyway, back to business. One day to go, as in one day for Donnie to get out of the White House. It's like, where did the time go? It seemed only yesterday that Donnie, Melania, and the gang were walking in. Of course, the problem is much bigger than young Donald, though he's a big problem. The bigger problem with Donnie leaving is, the gazillions and gazillions of people who either love him or love his message. Though it's interesting how long that message can prosper without Twitter. I'm starting to wonder how long it can prosper without Twitter. And to prove my point, young Donald Trump slipped under 30% in public opinion poll taken last week. David Ferris mentioned this on the interview on Friday. He broke the news. That's the sound of news breaking. He broke the news to me as we were having that conversation. It was Friday afternoon. And I didn't have an immediate thought or theory about it. You know, it's not like I'm a freaking jukebox, ladies and gentlemen. Just put in a nickel and I have a thought. You think I'm like Dennis? Huh? Like, come on, D, imitate Marge Simpson. Come on, D, imitate Mr. Burns. That's Mr. Burns?
Yeah, you asked for it.
Come on, D, now Family Guy. Do Pritzker.
That was kind of it.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of inspired. Anyway, sorry about that, D. He's very sensitive about that. He's not a jukebox. You can't put a nickel in him either. But the point is, these ideas just don't come to me. So I didn't have an immediate theory as to why Donald Trump suddenly fell below 30% of the popularity polls. And then I was walking late at night, and I was pondering the universe as I do in my late night rambles, and then bang, it hit me. Yes, the sound of inspiration is much the sound of me flip-flopping. Donald Trump fell under 30% in the public opinion polls because he's no longer on Twitter. Twitter was the key. It was his direct communication to the world. Not just the MAGA cultists and Trump devotees in need of deprogramming who will follow him wherever he goes, like the song by Little Peggy March. I love him, I love him, I love him, and do I love him. I will follow him. Come on, D, sing along.
Oh, wow, we're losing live stream listeners as you keep singing. And what's that? Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
It's sort of like Trump and his Twitter. Whoa, yeah. No, not just the devotees who need deprogramming, but Mr. and Mrs. America who are sitting at home going, Trump kind of makes sense. I mean, I'm just saying. Without that direct Twitter feed into their brain, he's not speaking right into their minds. And they're more likely to be free of Donnie, be free to think as they want. And then they come to the conclusion, oh my God, 100,000 more people have died from COVID in the last 5 weeks. Maybe Donald Trump is not such a great president. That's the headline in today's New York Times, folks. Pretty depressing headline. Just put it to the side. Anyway, that's my theory. It came to me the other night. By the way, that deprogramming comment, I'm actually quoting Katie Couric, one of Dennis's favorites. She tweeted it out. Yes, she tweets. Everyone tweets except for me. How can I be the next Joe Rogan if I don't tweet? Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold it. I just realized something, D. She didn't tweet it. She said it on the Bill Maher show. D, could you edit out the whole thing where I said Katie Couric tweeted? Just edit it out. We don't want BZ to hear that. Anyway. She said it on the Bill Maher show, ladies and gentlemen. She said, just edit that out, okay?
We mess up on purpose enough, all right?
No, but it's funny. If you ever been on a quote-unquote radio program and they're doing a recording, it's true. The host will go, oh, it's just there's some unseen person, producer, Billy Bob, just take care of that in the editing process, okay? Yeah. That's how Dennis and I, Dennis, just take care of that, okay? Yeah, sure, boss, coming right up. Yeah, anything you ask. Where was I, Dennis? Oh, yes. Whoa, sorry about that. Oh, Katie Couric at the Bill Maher show. And she said, quote, are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump? And immediately after that comment was aired, Mag started crying like the little snowflakes they are. She's so mean. She's so biased. We don't need deprogramming. It's perfectly normal to believe that Donald Trump, a TV pitchman, is actually the fearless leader in the war against unseen satanic cult of pedophiles. Just one theory that Trumpsters subscribe to. By the way, Frank, thank you very much. Sent me 3 updates. I hadn't seen these, but talk about nutcases. The Wyoming GOP, Western states paying attention to Texas' effort to secede. So there's a nutcase you got to worry about. This guy's the head of the Wyoming GOP. We're studying this. And where did he say it? On the Steve Bannon show. Steve Bannon's got a podcast. Steve, we're neck and neck with Bannon in the ratings battle. Okay? Let's try to pick up our game.
God damn. Make America great again, huh? We're going to do that. I have no clue what he sounds like.
That's the worst Bannon imitation I've ever heard. He was flying. He wrote the stupid inauguration speech that Trump gave 4 years ago, and now he's doing a podcast. He's probably in his attic, too, overlooking a porta potty. Somehow or other, I think Steve Bannon's got a better studio. By the way, wasn't Steve Bannon arrested? How the hell does he have time for a podcast? Wasn't he arrested, D? You
can podcast from anywhere nowadays. Jail cell. Bathroom.
Do you look that up for me? Do a little, get back to me, okay?
I'm not doing that.
So Steve Bannon has his own podcast. Some insane Wyoming GOP leader went on it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a nutcase she is, Congresswoman from Georgia. Turns out in 2018, she was drinking the Alex Jones Kool-Aid. And in this case, she said the Parkland school shooting was a false flag. They just made it up. Part of their wider effort to force Congress, embarrass Congress into passing legislation that would take away guns. It's like there's never been anything remotely resembling a bill that would force people to give up their guns. People are always buying more guns. Ever notice that? Every time there's like a transition between a Republican and a Democrat, it's like the stories come out. Reports are coming out that gun sales are going through the roof. Tribune loves this story. Tribune's always putting it, gun sales going through the roof. It's like, what are these guys doing with all these freaking guns? Sorry, D. Doing where I was going with that. Oh, I'm saying, MAGA, you can't have it 2 ways. You can't dedicate your lives to stupid, bizarre, whacked out theories that make you look like a cultist and then complain when the Katie Courics of the world call you cultists. Oh, and by the way, equally, you can't cry and weep and moan about cancel culture and how liberals and lefties are a bunch of little snowflakes that they can't take some insulting. And then as soon as someone criticizes you, you cry and moan like a snowflake. Can't have it 2 ways. Just saying. So stop crying, MAGA. You're leaving the way you came in. Crying like the little snowflakes that you are. We got a great show today, everybody. Miles Kampf-Lassin, in these times, he's not crying. Okay? He's not a snowflake. He wrote an excellent article in these times, which we're going to break down. Now that Donald Trump is leaving, what can the Dems do to keep more Donald Trumps from emerging? Excellent article by the great Miles Kampf-Lassin. We talk politics. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man that Miles Kampf-Lassin fondly calls Dr. D, with the news.
That is true. He has called me Dr. D quite a bit.
Does. A lot of people call you Dr. D, except for Troy LaRaviere, who calls you D Nice.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, guys. Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. And I guess we're going to keep talking about Mike Madigan, who is now our former Speaker of the House. Ben, you've been on the planet a very long time, and you've lived in Illinois for most of it. How weird does that sound? Former Speaker Mike Madigan.
Can't quite get it, you know? Although I really don't believe there's that much difference between Chris Welch and Mike Madigan. I'm just going to be the first to throw that out there. I actually threw that out there last week.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, let's pause it right there. More on Madigan in moments. That's a tease, everybody. But
okay,
first,
I'll pause it. No, I'm paused. I'm frozen. We have to tag so I can be unfrozen. Here, tag. Touch the screen. Ooh. I'm unfrozen now. Sorry, D.
Yeah, we're going to forget about that. But we're going to try our best to remember that a little later. More on Madigan in moments. But first, we continue our coverage on the State of the Union. The Chicago Teachers Union. First up, an update from CTU President Jesse Sharkey.
Right now,
Can't hear you, man. One of these days we'll hear you. Remember.
Sorry. It's a truck going by.
Remember, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and her Chicago Public Schools team would really like it if the Chicago Teachers Union got on board with their, hey, here's a crazy idea. Let's open up the schools during a pandemic and right before the vaccine plan. And the Teachers Union has been like, wait, what was that plan again? Oh, hell no, we're not doing that. And the mayor and her CPS team are still planning to forge ahead. On to Monday's news, the CPS is still forging ahead. And the following headline comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. CTU continues to plead to CPS for safe school reopenings. This is about saving our lives. The Chicago Teachers Union and supporters held a march on the South Side Monday as it continued the union's months-long plea for a safe reopening plan. The CTU held a press conference Monday in Pilsen, and boy, they brought the heavy hitters at this event. I have the audio, and we begin with our host of the event. It's 25th Ward Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez. Actually, Alderman, could you spell that last name for us, please?
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh, one more time? You need to spell it? Okay, well.
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
There you go, buddy.
Why was he spelling his name? Hold on, D. Just before we go further. BNJORAV as in Victor, SKY. D, Dr. DOCTOR, D as in D.
Alderman Sigcho.
Why was he spelling his name?
It was like the beginning of the press event, and they said, like, hey, say your name and spell your name,
You know what? Can I just say something? I didn't realize that. That's a great idea. And I'm just speaking, that was really nice of you, because reporters of the world, the first thing you got to do is get the name spelled right. Oh, my God, they teach you that. You got to get the name spelled right. This is 101 in journalism school. And then you got to get the age. Sir, how old are you? They always ask you how old you are. So Dr. D, 31, said, I am the walrus.
Do you think I'm 31?
What?
Do you think I'm 31?
Well, kinda, but
You thought I was 31.
I wasn't even yeah. I mean, I wasn't even really thinking that you were 31. I just looked at you and said 31.
37. 37.
Wow. Sunrise, sunset, quickly the days they do. Sorry.
Wait, one more time. I need the spelling. I need the spelling on the name again. One more time, please.
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
Okay, cool.
Wait. Okay, got that right. All right, now continue.
Alderman Sigcho Lopez kicked off the event with one of what became many powerful speeches in this event. Here's Byron Sigcho Lopez.
We have had multiple conversations over the week. We actually have engaged in dialogue with our educators, parents, administrators, teachers, and overwhelmingly, across the board, we reject the reopening plan. It is oppressive to see people of color being forced to go back to our schools. And we're here as we see more local school councils in our community. Almost every local school council that we have attended, every school council that we have attended has signed a letter rejecting the reopening plan. And we are here as a community in support of our teachers to stop the retaliation, those shameful practices of CPS, and to make sure that here as a community, we are going to protect the lives of our community. That is unequivocal, and that's what we're going to fight for.
You know, it's good to hear Byron Cicero Lopez coming out strong for the teachers. Dee, that has not always been the case in the city of Chicago with aldermen. I remember 2012, the Chicago teacher strike. Oh my God, have we written history on that strike? Now when you read the articles about the strike, it's like, yes, everybody rose up to join Karen Jennings Lewis and the teachers union on the strike. You know, everybody supported them. Everybody thought Rahm was mean. Folks, that's completely rewritten. I think on that stage, they had that big rally at the Auditorium Theater. It was a very impressive rally. Jesse Jackson was there. Jesse Lewis Jackson was there. Karen Lewis, of course. I believe the only alderman, I think Bob Fioretti was there. And I think Scotty Wagasback was there. That was the days, of course, when Scotty was the leader of the Progressive. And Nick Spozzato may have been there. I don't know if Nick was there at that particular rally. He showed up at Daly Center for one of the rallies. So it was really like a handful of aldermen. Boy, I tell you what, for such a progressive town, it takes us a while for people to find their progressive courage. Well, I'm not quite ready to do it. I just can't come out because the mayor will get mad at me, and I don't want the mayor to get mad at me. That's that Chicago mentality. So afraid of the mayor. So, you know, let's give Byron a little credit, D. Mainly because nobody expected Byron to be the alderman. You know, Danny Solis was the alderman of the 25th Ward for like a gazillion years, one of the most powerful aldermen in the city of Chicago, head of the zoning committee. Then he stepped down. Remember when he stepped down? I want to spend more time with my family. And Rahm was like, oh, what a nice thought. Please, thank you for your service and enjoy your family. And then it turns out that Danny Solis was wearing a wire. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I kind of forgot that. Danny Solis, whatever the mayor said, supported the mayor when it came to the teachers union. Oh, the teachers union. Can't they just get along a little bit? Meanwhile, he's wearing a wire. Anyway, so Danny Solis didn't run, and that vacancy opened the door for Byron Cicero Lopez. And now the 25th Ward has an out-and-out progressive, not afraid to stand up with the teachers union. But again, a bizarre city Chicago is. Votes 80 to 85% year in and year out. A presidential election, one after another, for the liberal Democrat. But when it comes to local issues, you know, we're generally a little scared, a little afraid. Got the little finger out in the air, see which way the wind is blowing. A couple of calls from the mayor. They find their inner MAGA, so to speak, you know. So it's good to see Byron Cicero Lopez, D, is on the front lines. Just saying, okay? I find it encouraging.
Oh, you're bringing it on the sound effects today, all right? That was awesome work right there, bud.
Yeah, thank you, man. You know, I've been thinking about it all weekend, and Vilma and I have been working on it all weekend.
All right, there's no Vilma. It's me and Ben. All right, up next at this speech the CTU, or the press conference the CTU held, we haven't heard from this guy in a while. And Ben, please hold your ears if you don't mind. Could you do that, please?
Okay, there we go.
All right. I mean, we haven't heard from him in a while. I mean, besides on WCPT 820 on Sunday morning. Hold your ears. Hold your ears on the Brandon Johnson show.
Oh.
All right, you can unplug your ears.
I just heard Brandon Johnson, you know, Cook County Board Commissioner, leader of the Chicago Teachers Union, good friend of this show. But I feel compelled to take my deepest voice on the airwaves to WCPT, the station that fired you. Ben, don't take it the wrong way that I go on CPT when they fired you. By the way, did I tell you it's a brilliant management? I love them dearly. Brandon, I don't hold it against you. I swear it is true. I do not hold it against you. Okay? A lot of friends over at WC you later. Ricky Hendon, Scotty Duff, right? I'm not going to name any more because I'll probably get fired, but, you know, just say that I know and like them. A certain ad salesman who will go without mention. I like him too. So anyway, Go ahead, D. What were you saying?
It's the Brandon Johnson Show, Sunday mornings on WCPT 820, where facts matter. All right.
Unless they're facts about tips. Then don't talk about it, then.
But yes, it's Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. He spoke, and after this, I personally have my new, I hope he becomes a mayoral candidate favorite, Brandon Johnson. Take it away.
Dr. King said in a very clear way, it is our responsibility to call into question every aspect of society. And that's everything from the social inequalities around housing, healthcare, transportation, education, and jobs. What families are saying today is that the call that we had a generation ago, that call still exists today. It is unconscionable that the mayor of Chicago is doing what previous administrations have done, and that's ignore the voices of black and brown families. It is shameful, it is unconscionable, it's disrespectful. Black and brown families all over the city of Chicago have said in a resounding voice that this so-called plan is not safe and it puts our families at risk. And thank you to the community and to the leaders within the Chicago Teachers Union and to the members for hearing the voices of families. So now we are calling on the mayor of Chicago. We are calling on the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools is to do something that the white men couldn't do. And that's actually respect and value the lives of black and brown people. We are calling on the mayor of Chicago and the CEO to do what white men couldn't do. And that's actually bring voice by standing up for an elected representative school board for the city of Chicago. We are calling on the mayor of Chicago and the CEO to do another thing that the white men couldn't do who were in charge. Actually put forth a plan that's collaborative, that speaks to the interests of the very people who make up this school district. It's about time that we get to not only listen to the voices of those who actually make up the district, but we cannot continue to prioritize the small minority who don't even want to recognize that this pandemic is real. Why are we capitulating to a handful of people who have not bared the brunt of social inequality and racism and white supremacy? It's about time that the mayor of this city, the CEO, do what's right for the very people who make up this city. I stand in complete solidarity with the families of Chicago, with the Chicago Teachers Union, and the movement across this globe to bring equity and justice once and for all. Thank you and God bless you.
Brandon Johnson is a very powerful speaker, even if he makes dubious selections about his radio station that he works for. But just threw that out there. Oh, Brandon, come on. Just kidding. Okay. You don't really get the full effect. I believe D must have been wearing a mask because he sounded a little muffled. I couldn't see the video. I just heard it. But he is a very powerful. I remember the first time I heard Brandon Johnson, and I believe it was 2012 was the year. Don't quote me on that, D. And he was the MC at a rally at UIC where they, oh my God, I just remember this. This was Amisha Patel's rally that she put together, and they called various aldermen and state reps to the stage to take a pledge on behalf of the community on various issues. And the aldermen were only supposed to say yes or no. Like, do you support TIF, ending TIF, something like that? And yes! As soon as they left the room, they completely abandoned that pledge, of course. But yes, I remember that was the first time I said, man, because I had talked to Brandon. I had seen him at meetings, and so I just never saw his speaking ability on display until that rally. So he's a very powerful voice, and maybe one day he will run for mayor. He put it right out there, defying Lori Lightfoot on this issue. I would say this. It just seems like sort of the theme of that speech is that Lori Lightfoot is capitulating to one community in Chicago that wants schools open. I'm not certain that is true. That is that there's one community in Chicago that wants schools open. That's a theory I've heard from other people. I don't know if there's any significant desire or demand in the city of Chicago from parents to automatically open the school. I know, Brandon. I can hear your rebuttal, even if you were sitting right here in my attic. And that is that some schools in predominantly white neighborhoods are having a larger number of kids coming back than in black neighborhoods. So the suggestion is that there's a demand for the schools to reopen in those areas. I understand that. I just don't see and hear it as like a loud, persistent theme that anybody is particularly articulating. My sense of it is, Brandon, and I hope you don't vehemently disagree. Actually, I welcome your vehement disagreement and kind of bring it back to the show, D. But my sense of it is just this notion that's infected many leaders throughout the country of the Democratic persuasion, the Dem persuasion, and that is they must show what? They must deviate from the teachers' unions of the world and show their independence from the teachers' union world and reopen the schools. And it really is a bizarre thing. You know what I mean? Like, of all the reopenings that they would choose in a city like Chicago, where we have these old, outdated school buildings, it would be the schools. Now, I noticed, D, I don't know if you saw this, Lori Lightfoot is, also tiptoeing toward opening bars and restaurants, tiptoeing. Not quite like the schools. She's sprinting to reopen the schools. But Brandon, I just have to disagree with you on this point. I'm not sure there is like a compelling movement anywhere to reopen the schools. I think in cities like Chicago, a lot of people are afraid of the pandemic. I can tell you that from personal experience. I'm really afraid of the pandemic. And I know a lot of people like me feel the same way. So it's been going on for a long time. And I feel it's almost like this mayor's, they have this, I gotta show the world that I'm doing something attitude. And then the civic community joins in on it, and the editorial boards join in on it, and it's like, yeah, we have to show the world that we really care about the kids. Let's open those schools, and like I always say, plenty of time after this pandemic, just like there was plenty of time before the pandemic to show the world how much you care about the kids, if you really care about the kids. So just a minor difference of opinion with the great Brandon Johnson.
All right, and finally, this is like a badass concert you go to. We got the closer, SDG, Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacey Davis Gates. Listen, she's going to be honest. Here we go.
Good morning. I won't be long. There's not much to say. This is tough. It is tough to sit at a bargaining table and try to make a bad plan better. It is tough to get phone calls and text messages and emails from our educators who have dedicated their entire life to this city, to our families in this city, and to the students of this city. Our educators want a return to their in-person classrooms. They do. And they want to do it safely. They want to do it safely for themselves, for their students, and all of their families. The irony of where we sit right now is that we finally have a president coming in the door who acknowledges the depth of this issue with respect to the pandemic. He has pledged that within the first 100 days of his administration, that the majority of schools in this country will get the resources that are necessary to keep people safe. That's number one. Number two, the state of Illinois on January 25th will enter 1B. And when we enter 1B, educators and school staff will be eligible for a vaccine. The irony is that it's the same day that the Chicago Public Schools will be forcing our workers, our members, who are mothers, who are fathers, who are aunts, who are uncles, who are sisters, who are brothers, to go back into classrooms. We have light at the end of the tunnel, but we have intractability at the negotiating table. Those two things are in sharp conflict. And so yet again, people who have not stopped working, by the way, and I want to make that clear because I think people have that confused. People who have not stopped working, who have learned how to do their job differently in the last 9 months, are expected to forego the science, to forego the experiences that they've had with COVID, the experiences that their families have had with COVID, and just blindly return into a place where the ventilation is insufficient, where the filters are ill-equipped for the square footage that are in the classrooms, where the testing doesn't look like it should. Teachers who taught every scientist who's given out all of the protocols. They're supposed to forget that they know how to read. They are supposed to forget that they understand the rules. They are supposed to forget what best practices, what the CDC, what the WHO have said. Like, you can't forget that. So yet again, we're forced to challenge the presumption of safety. This is the same union that in 2019 said we need a nurse in every school. Which, by the way, a nurse in every school was the innovation from the pandemic we had 100 years ago. 100 years ago. This is the same union that said our children deal with trauma, so we need more social emotional supports. So put a social worker and a counselor in every school. This is the same group of people who said that we need a library in every single school. This is the same group of people who do not just take their needs to a negotiating table, they take the needs of the students and the families that they serve and the communities in which they serve to the negotiating table. So I want to reset this. We work hard. We love hard. And we are going to continue to challenge the presumption of this unsafe plan and demand a plan that makes remote learning better, because like what has been said before, the vast majority of Black families, the vast majority of Latinx families have said remote learning. So if we're talking equity, make remote learning better. And I don't want anyone to leave here today with the mistake that this is a power struggle. This is about saving our lives. This ain't about power. This ain't about politics. This ain't about petty grievances. This is about 2 weeks in the door. We have over 50 COVID exposures, incidents, infections happening in school buildings. Anyone else would say, time out. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, that's Stacey Davis Gates. And, you know, Dee, I like how she didn't retreat from the notion that she was speaking on behalf of teachers. I mean, it is the Chicago Teachers Union. They represent teachers, and that's what a union is supposed to do. And in this case, their members have been put in danger. And I again, going back to what Brandon says, I don't see a really compelling political movement that the mayor and Janice Jackson are responding to open the schools in the middle of the pandemic. I think it's pretty obvious that everybody's sick of the pandemic, and the pandemic is not good for education, to put it mildly, and that virtual education is no substitute for in-class teachers, absolutely. But we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's very dangerous. And this notion that it's a bargaining issue, Stacey Davis Gates mentioned, we're at the bargaining table. How absurd is that? They're bargaining over this. It's such a Chicago mentality. Like, you reduce teachers to just this entity called the Chicago Teachers Union, and every step of the way you bargain with them. And then you show how strong you are by defying them. And you're cheered on from the sidelines by the powers that be in this city, who like view teachers as this irritating little group of meddlesome creatures that are like their servants and their babysitters. That's how they view teachers. They have just such a disparaging attitude toward them. And so they just love it when a mayor is tough with a teacher. That's how you treat a teacher. Man, I've sat at teacher conferences. I'm just going to share that. I've heard the way some parents talk to teachers. You know, I've been next in line, so you're in the classroom waiting for your turn to meet with the teacher. And you got some parent, pause for the train to go by, D. You got some parent who's like, I don't know, maybe at one point she was 2 years in a classroom, or who knows. But suddenly she's an expert. You know, I read Maria Montessori's book on teaching. Did you ever read that book? This poor teacher's got to deal with 30 kids and 60 freaking parents. Now going to get a lecture from some woman about Maria Montessori. Maria Montessori laid it out. I don't know. Just the attitude that Chicago has towards the team. They're bargaining over this. I said it once, I'll say it a million times. I'll never understand why Lori Lightfoot couldn't just reach out to Jesse Sharkey or Stacey Davis Gates. Okay, she's got this thing about Stacey Davis Gates. She really doesn't like her. So then reach out to Jesse Sharkey. Hey, reach out to Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson's like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He gets along with everyone. You know, he even gets along with the people at WC later. And so if you can't get along with Brandon Johnson, really, I don't know what to say. Okay, you don't like Stacey Davis Gates. We get that. Got this thing with her about her. Yeah. So this is really bizarre, but it's just a continuation of the attitude that powerful Chicagoans have toward teachers. I'm sure it's something that Lori Lightfoot picked up in, you know, she's from the corporate culture of the corporate law. So, you know, she hears how people talk about teachers. She hears how the powerful people of Chicago talked about Karen Lewis, how they trashed her back in 2012. I heard all the things you guys said about her. So, yeah, I'm different. I come at it differently. I admit it. I've said it many times. My mother was a teacher, so maybe it's a little personal with me. My mom was a teacher for over 40 years. So maybe it's a little personal with me. I throw that out there. I admit it. But what about the rest of you? What about your weird attitude, your impulse to tell a teacher based on like 1 year you may have studied teaching in college, so that you're an expert? Shut up, get in that classroom. We'll tell you how it's done. Sorry, D. Didn't mean to go on that tangent.
All good.
But actually,
buddy.
I did.
All good. Just don't talk about sports. Okay. On to statewide news and some breaking statewide news. The following is a press release posted on CapitalFacts.com. Go check it out. CapitalFacts.com. Rich Miller, the meanest Illinois political bulldog in the yard. State Senator Heather Staines today announced her resignation after 12 years of service, declaring, quote, "It's time for fresh faces and new energy in Springfield." We have a quote from Staines. Staines says, quote, "It's been the privilege of a lifetime to represent the most diverse Senate district in the state of Illinois. I've benefited tremendously from the many perspectives of the people I've represented. We've made great progress together, and now it's time to pass the baton." Ben Joravsky, your thoughts?
Wow, that is breaking news. That we did not discuss that in the pre-show planning session.
That's how breaking news works.
As I recall, we did not discuss that. Let me go through my notes. Hold on. Well, we did not discuss that. Heather Staines, state senator from the north side of Chicago, the Edgewater area, First time I ever met Heather Staines. Steve, thank you for asking.
Oh, man.
I think she said it was 12 years ago. She's been wow. Damn, sunrise, sunset time's been flying. Meow, that's time flying. Would have been about 2009, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, D. 2008. We met for coffee at the Starbucks on the corner of Lawrence and Broadway. Remember that, Senator Staines?
Oh, I love that Starbucks.
I think you were there that day. I go, who's that good-looking guy with the mustache? Anyway, Heather Staines, quintessential lakefront liberal. I had my issues with Heather Staines down through the years, I must admit. Many of the lakefront liberals were a little too close to Rahm. And we're drinking that Rahm Kool-Aid and that whole, neoliberal stuff and get tough on the teachers union and stand for teachers. And we love the charter schools. But they kind of outgrew it, T. It was like an evolutionary phase that they were going through. And I'm thinking about that phase because Barack Obama was a big cheerleader for all that stuff, too. Arnie Duncan. My good friend Peter Cunningham wrote half the stuff they said. Cunningham behind the scenes. All right, here's what you're going to say. Okay, boss, write it down. I mean, why? People go, why don't you get Arnie Duncan? Why would I want Arnie Duncan? I got Peter Cunningham. The guy wrote everything. People go, but get Richie Daley. Peter Cunningham wrote all their speeches. If they said something smart, Cunningham probably wrote it. So, I struggled with my fellow Democrats during that time. I really did, D. I struggled with them. I felt isolated from the party. I didn't support their initiatives in Springfield. They were always going after the pensions. They had this thing about the pensions. I'm like, why are you going after the pensions? It's like a direct investment in the city of Chicago. I could never understand. A firefighter, a cop, a teacher, a truck driver, a garbage. They live in Chicago. You give them pension money. First of all, you don't give it to them. It's a return on this money they've invested in their own pension. And we should all have pensions. Why are you like nickel and diming on the pensions and then looking the other way at all the corporate tax breaks and TIF handouts? I really struggled with my lakefront liberals. And Heather Staines was one of them. But they kind of evolved. They grew out of it, D, They were better. As time went on. And some of them are like radicals. Casey Kelly Cassidy is as lefty as I am these days.
Well, we do have some other news here. Wait, the newsroom's flagging me down. Hang tight. Let me run to the newsroom. I'll get the story. We'll see what else is going on here. Hang tight. Hey, story, give it to me. Yeah, it's snowing. Who cares? Yeah, a mustache. I know. Never heard that one before.
They like the mustache, huh?
Whatever. All right. Oh, more breaking news.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Read the story here. Update. State Rep and dear friend of the Ben Joravsky Show, Kelly Cassidy, announced that she intends to seek the appointment to the Senate.
Oh, KC.
Here's the quote from Cassidy. Quote, I intend to seek the appointment to the Senate. See, she said it right there.
Dennis, let me just make a couple comments. Number one, we did not discuss this in the pre-show planning, okay? Let's go back and change everything. Yeah, Kelly Cassidy is now as left as I am, so I applaud that. You're going to get a lefty in the state Senate. Good. I like lefties. And KC's letting that freak flag fly, and I applaud her for doing it. So it's all well. Man, what a shift. As I think of like 48th Ward, Edgewater politics, this is a special subsection of Chicago, ladies and gentlemen. I know we have a lot of out-of-town listeners, but this is the north side of Chicago. This is an area that's always been just a little hesitant to let its freak flag fly, just a little tied, a little too closely. Goes back to the days of Alderwoman Marion Bellini. I love that Daley machine a little too much. But now with Kelly Cassidy in there as state senator, man, ready to rock and roll. It's Jimi Hendrix time. So I applaud Kelly Cassidy getting the gig. And hey, Kelly Cassidy, just the two of us, let's clean up that reefer bill, huh? We got to get some more of these licenses out to black entrepreneurs. Just me saying that to you. You know I love you dearly. So yes, D, it's the lakefront. I'm hoping that it's moving to the left. Now, just north of that, excuse me, just south of that, in Lakeview and Lincoln Park, come on. A lot of too many MAGA votes there. What was old boy's name? D, I forgot his name already.
Old boy.
Ran against Kim Fox. You know,
oh,
Daddy's
which one?
boy.
Oh, Bill the Bro Conway.
Yeah. 43rd Ward, 44th Ward, a little too strong for Bill the Bro Conway. We really disapprove of how Kim Fox responded to the whole Jussie Smollett thing, Ben. Like you guys want to do the same thing? Kim Fox got a phone call from some high-powered, I don't even know who it was, but some well-connected person. Who knows who it was? You wouldn't have taken that call? 43rd Ward, 44th Ward? You don't take and make calls all the time? Yeah, that's what I thought. So anyway, I think the 48th Ward is moving more into a lefty direction, D. The Alderman, Harry Osterman, I think he actually voted against a couple TIF measures. So, you know, about time, 48th Ward. Heather Stain, good luck to you, Heather Staines. We didn't always see eye to eye on a lot of issues back in that days when those Dems were drinking that Rahm Kool-Aid. But once Rahm left the scene, everybody kind of moved to the lefty. Move to the left.
So any idea as to what Staines is moving on to? I mean, time with the family?
No. Heather Staines comes from a well-to-do banking family, I think. So maybe she'll go back into banking. I really don't know.
Do you think maybe Pritzker has a plan for her in some kind of re-election campaign cabinet or something?
That. Yeah, your brain is really, you're like, just like your guy.
Andy Menard. Yeah.
Everybody's going to work for Pritzker.
Right. He resigned, and next thing you know, bam, he's the downstate czar.
She could be their lakefront czar.
Ooh.
Although, really, Pritzker's kind of strong in the lakefront.
Yeah, doesn't need help with that.
Right? I don't think it is. I don't know. I have no idea what she's going to do. Maybe, she was in the banking. So maybe she
right. She was into banking, so maybe she did something like kind of Illinois politician-y. I don't know, right? No,
no, she didn't. That's not the heck. Come on, now.
I'm just saying, it is Illinois. It is Illinois.
That's true. And remember when Cullerton stepped down?
Yeah.
You made fun of me. Yes, he made fun of me, ladies and gentlemen. He said I was naive because I said Cullerton really did want to spend time with his grandchildren. And Dennis, yes. Jaded, cynical Dennis skills. Yeah, right, Ben. And he twirled his little mustache as he said it. Nah, man, 2 breaking news stories. I'm just, let's see. When was the last time Heather Staines ran? I'm trying to think. Did she run into do you have our crack team of backroom investigators look this up?
Yeah.
Did she run 2018 or 2020? Because if she ran in 2020, that is classic Chicago. Just running for re-election and stepping down. You know what? I'll look it up.
Well, actually, you're looking it up, but I heard the phone ringing. Why don't you just ask Phyllis?
Springfield politicians, they promise they won't tax retirement income if their constitutional amendment passes.
Phyllis. Gotta get that phone thing. D, why do I still have phone service?
I don't know.
And the phone doesn't work.
Get rid of it.
Anyway, Heather Staines, best of luck to you and your family. And KC states, so that means, the bumping process will go on.
Yeah.
Someone's got to replace Kelly Cassidy as
Oh,
state
here
rep.
comes Daniel Biss. I'm no longer running for mayor. Going back to state rep.
There's no truth to the rumor that Dennis is throwing his hat into the ring, okay? Just saying that right now.
Never.
Now that seat, I think now I've lost. I used to know this stuff by heart. The bumping process that occurred when, because the bumping process that occurred, oh my God, this is like 48th Ward, deep dive stuff. When Heather Staines was first took over as senator. She filled a vacancy created when Carol Ronan stepped down, as I recall. And there were people in that ward of the sort of like my persuasion, lefties, progressives, who wanted the job, but the party appointed Heather Staines. It's party politics. Chicago's machine doesn't play. That was the Daily. Daily was in charge back then, I think. Yeah, so. We've never really had a champion on the north side of Chicago. And I'm thinking this out. Somebody who just like stood up to the mayor and whenever the idiotic idea popped into the mayor's head. We haven't really had to deal with idiotic ideas out of a mayor during Lori Lightfoot's reign. I'm going to give a shout out to Lori Lightfoot here. Maybe it's because there's the pandemic, severely limits mayor's ability to come with, try to implement idiotic ideas. You get what I'm saying? Rob was filled with them. Hey, I got an idea. Let's build a basketball arena with money in an up-and-coming neighborhood with money that's intended for the poorest of the poor neighborhoods. And so all the Lakefront aldermen joined him on that one. And of course, this is the Paul basketball arena. And they didn't even spend the money at the Paul. They ended up spending it on Navy Pier. Oops. Funny how that happens. And then the Amazon, and then, inviting NATO. The list goes on. And Mayor Daley with his goofy Olympics. We never had a Lakefront alderman that ever stood up to him. Never. And traditionally, the Lakefront was where the liberals come from. So it's like all those hippies, like in the 60s when their neck was on the line, they were facing going to Vietnam, and they were suddenly liberal. And so they took their liberal views and they spread it local as well as national. And so they were like, oh, wow, police brutality is a bad thing. And, oh, wow, not spending money on poor black neighbors is a bad thing. And, oh, wow, all powerful mayors who get to do whatever they want is a bad thing. And they got older and they got corporate jobs. And they're paying taxes. And they go, oh, Mayor Daley sounds good to me. And that's sort of like a condensed version of what happened to Lakefront people. And so we really had a champion on the Lakefront. Now I'm thinking about it.
Snap out of it, Lakefront people. My goodness.
It's maybe a little too late, but Kelly Cassidy's there. KC, she's feeling that freak flag. She's moved to the left, so good luck, Kelly.
All right, so there you are. That's our local news. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. Reach out to us. And we have a phone number. It's true. 708-658-4788. The number again, 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. Try to do it not between the hours of 1 and 3 p.m. Central Time. Boy, that'd be great.
Like Phyllis.
Like Phyllis always does. Right.
Phyllis wants to come on the show, and she wants to be on the show with Stacey Davis Gates. She's a huge fan of SDG, okay? She really loves Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. Man, could you imagine if we had an alderman on the lakefront like Jeanette Taylor? Good God.
Springfield politician.
Not now, Phyllis.
Come on, Phyllis.
And
not now.
we do have a few voicemails to play, and so what we're going to do during our break is play those voicemails. So check them out, and when we come back, Miles Kampf-Lassin will be joining us from these times.
We take the break. I just want to say, because of all that breaking news, I didn't get to my QAnon controversy and Winnetka story, which I really want to talk about. So we'll try to get to that in the back half. And if we don't do that, we'll get to it tomorrow. Right, Dave?
Yes.
Anyway, I wanted to say something about that fair tax that got voted down. I believe that the statistics I looked at claimed that it did pass by over 60% in Cook County. Only county in the state that it passed in, and it did pass actually by enough that we would have gotten it if the rest of the state, had any intelligence. But I don't know how you can bring that up, but I know you were disgusted by that vote, and like so many of us. And I think at least the people around us here in Cook County aren't as bad as the rest. Okay, then. Have a good day. Always enjoy your show. Thanks. Oh yeah, this was Iggy.
This whole open the schools, open the restaurants, open the businesses. 10 months ago, we shut the whole world down. We shut the country down. We shut our offices down, our restaurants. A lot of them went out of business. R.I.P. Old Country Buffet. And 10 months later, open. We can go. We can do this. We can do that. The schools can open. The kids can go back. Nothing has changed. What was the difference 10 months ago when this first came out? Everybody stay home. Wear a mask. Don't go out. Nothing has changed. Not even like 1% or so has gotten a vaccine. We don't even know if the vaccine works. And then open. So when everybody goes back to school, the kids, a few of them might have casualties, but the majority of the teachers are at risk, and then the majority of the kids will bring it back to home to the parents. The parents will get sick. Now we have orphans. This is all messed up. It's not right. Just so you know.
You can call the Ben Joravsky Show as well, 708-658-4788. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Ben, take it away.
Miles Kampf-Lassin joining us from In These Times. Miles Kampf-Lassin, the pride and joy of Whitney Young High School and of several rock bands. Huge Bulls fan. We're going to really show discipline, Miles. We're not going to discuss our beloved Bulls, even though they were victorious last night, correct? We're not going to discuss them, right?
Not a word.
Okay. Love you, Zach Levine. Sorry, I just couldn't resist that one. Miles, I told you this before the show. I texted you before the show. It's like In These Times week on the Ben Joravsky Show. Mindy Iser, a colleague of yours from In These Times, was our guest over the weekend. She did a great job. It was her debut. She shamed me for shaming Trump voters. It was a spirited conversation, and I'm definitely going to invite her back. And then Leonard Goodman, another In These Times contributor, was on, and he was ripping Democrats. Leonard is even to the left of me, which I didn't think was possible to find anybody to the left of me. And now you coming on the show. You're a writer for In These Times and an editor. I believe you're Mindy's editor, right? Sometimes you edit her copy. Yeah. You wrote a great essay column. I call them columns. I don't know what you call them for In These Times. How to avoid another monster like Trump. And that's the headline. And it just sums everything up, because on one hand, you talk about the monster that Trump is and was. And then you talk about what the Dems should do in the Biden administration to prevent another monster like Trump from emerging. So it's both things. Hello, Biden. Goodbye, Trump. So before we get to the hello, Biden part of it, why don't you talk about the goodbye, Trump part of it and your assessment 4 years later of Donald Trump's reign as president?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me, as always, as my first appearance on the Ben Joravsky Show this year. I just want to start by wishing happy and safe 2021 to both you and Dr. D, a.k.a. D Nice, as he's more commonly known now. Yes. We made it through the madness of 2020 and are still standing. So, may the new year bring us all more joy and triumph on our journeys through the struggle. This is Donald Trump's last full day in office right now. We somehow have made it from, a very dark day in January of 2016. I was actually on the streets of Washington, D.C. protesting Donald Trump's inauguration 4 years ago. 2017, sorry. And he spoke of American carnage and had a speech written by Steve Bannon, who I know you brought up earlier. It was a really scary moment for me, not just because of the threat that Donald Trump posed to our country and our democracy, but also because there was an emerging consensus that Trump might be able to perform some kind of political realignment, right? By running on like a worker-friendly agenda and investing in doing a big infrastructure bill. There was a huge case in Indiana where, Trump said he stopped a company from moving overseas and was saving jobs. It was a real concern that he might be able to pull off some type of actual political strategy that hadn't been done before that would build him some majority support while also being a rabid, racist and xenophobe, anti-immigrant president. So, now we see that 4 years later, he squandered that entirely, right? I mean, there was no real attempt to do such a realignment. And in fact, Trump just carried out mass death. I mean, this is the worst year in American history we just lived through, including the Civil War. I mean, America's been around since 1776, and we just lived through certainly the deadliest and darkest year in our country's history. And we all feel it. I mean, you're recording from your attic. We're all, our lives have been upended. And it's not solely Donald Trump's fault, but look around the world. I mean, we are unique, the United States, not just in the death count, but in how much our lives have been completely transformed for the worse because of the pandemic. And it's because Donald Trump didn't care. He never cared about governance or about, how the American people are doing. He only cared about the stock market and what people were saying about him, basically. I mean, it's real petty. I mean, he's always been a very petty dude, and that has become his politics. The thing he was effective at, though, was building a cult of personality, and we see that in the hordes of mobs that stormed the Capitol. That their one unifying political principle was undying loyalty to Donald Trump, the man. And we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's the one who said, "I alone can fix it," right? I mean, that was his whole, the running theme throughout his administration was all about him, which is why it's the Republican Party is in such a quandary now, because they need to decide whether they're going to just shut him off essentially and say, we're not going to, have this guy around anymore as a pole within our political coalition, and then lose all of his diehard supporters, or if they're going to just double down and say, the Q people and the, these anti-statist militia groups and the Proud Boys, they're the new face of the Republican Party. So I think that Trump has really left the Republicans in shambles and with a real, a potential civil war on their hands within the party. And it's certainly incredibly dangerous for our country because of how much they're willing to move towards the latter and embrace the lunatic fringe element. But I am not sorry to see him go. I think that's something probably a lot of your listeners can get on board with is, thank God, no more.
No, except for an occasional troll, I do not believe there's any MAGA lovers that listen to the show. Definitely not on a regular basis. When I was reading your essay, it occurred to me that every now and then, Donald Trump would offer up something, an idea that was vaguely progressive. And I always thought Donald Trump was sort of, he had spent a lot of time listening to comics. And so he got a lot of his inspiration from sort of the stream of consciousness of comedians. And so he would go on a stream of consciousness thing. And every now and then, he would, he might take a swipe at a tax law that he knew from experience would benefit the well-to-do and they didn't need it. And I would hear that and I go, is he ready to lead a charge against this tax law? No. Quickly. The most recent case, Miles, was out of nowhere. Donald Trump, who hadn't been paying attention to any of the job aspects of being president, was only paying attention to trying to undo the election that he lost, said that the $600 that Congress had decided people should get in this country as a stimulus in the middle of the pandemic was not enough. It should be $2,000. He put it out in a tweet. He may have said it at a moment, and then he quickly dropped it. He didn't put the pressure on Mitch McConnell and the Republican. It passed in the House. Nancy Pelosi called his bluff, and it died in the Senate where the Republicans control it. And so it seems like he understood how rigged the system is against people who aren't wealthy like him, but he wasn't going to do a damn thing to change it.
No, I mean, I don't think it was ever a question of even political will. I think there was just a complete lack of interest. I mean, he was just clinging for anything to, rail against the establishment on. And if it was $2,000 checks, so be it, but there was no underlying kind of moral thread connecting any of these. What he talked about a lot more than $2,000 checks was about water pressure and shower heads. I mean, that's been his latest bête noire that he's going off about. I mean, that just goes to show the kind of manic nature of how he's approached, policy questions. And I think it's what has made him so toxic is because the constituency for him is his diehard supporters at this point. And the Republican Party has, thrown their lot in with him. So, of course, there's plenty of just lifelong Republicans now that are, Trumpists essentially for the long haul. But he was never a great vehicle for the Republican Party besides doing their two major objectives, which were stacking the judiciary with right-wing nominees, which certainly they succeeded at. I mean, it's that I think will be the longest lasting legacy. Certainly at the Trump era will be all the right-wing judges we now have on the bench at the federal level. And then also just, helping corporate America. I mean, that's the constant, goal of the Republican Party has been to be the party of corporate power. Now, Democrats have also gotten in on that game as well. But what we've seen in the past week has been this huge shift in which all these corporations have turned off the valves. They don't want to be associated with, a seditionist caucus, so they're no longer supporting these Republicans. And if anything, that's the motivating factor for McConnell to try to, stop that slide into just, embracing the storm the Capitol, stop the steal folks, is because that's a path towards, economic destitution for the Republican Party. And that's the only thing that McConnell cares about is power and maintaining his, caucus. And right now that's being threatened precisely because of Donald Trump and his supporters and their actions.
You raise a point that I want to ask you about in terms of what finally was the straw that broke the camel's back for corporate America, which was largely on the sidelines through the 4 or 5 years of Trump and his abominations. They didn't really take a stand once. And I've said this on the show a couple times. I'll say it to you. I watched that 60 Minutes interview with Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, who Trump called up and tried to intimidate into finding the 11,000 votes he needed to reverse Georgia. And they made a point of saying, Miles, that Raffensperger is a lifelong Republican. He supported Trump in 2016. He voted for Trump in 2020. He wanted Trump to win. And this was like a shock. And I think of Raffensperger and I think of corporate America, and I'm like viewing it like, what was the shock about this in particular? How is this different than the way the man ruled for the last 4 or 5 years? What suddenly happened that the light went on? I've been struggling with this, Miles. Corporate America has turned against Donald Trump. It's like that. They were something. What, the insurrection embarrassed them? Is that it? They supported this guy who was calling for this kind of violence. The carnage speech that you alluded to from 2017 was as nutsy as anything that he delivered at the end. So really was Donald Trump was Donald Trump. He was consistent throughout. He supported Nazis in Charlottesburg. Where was corporate America for where was the outrage of Raffensperger and corporate America and I don't know, Nike? I don't know who corporate America is when they say, what changed? Like, what was it, Miles, that suddenly got corporate America to wake up?
Well, I can't speak for them because sadly they have not welcomed me into their ranks, so I don't get invited to the dinners and socials and everything. But what I would presume is, for one thing, he's out the door already, right? So there's way less of a potential downside for them from cutting it off at this point. It's an opportunity, if anything, in order to try to get the more respectable, elite-oriented Republicans ahead of the pack, essentially, and to tamp down the Trump ones. But then also it's a matter of, the Capitol was stormed. At least five people died. There was certainly members of Congress who felt their lives were under threat. That's a pretty big, motivating factor. I think that you're completely right that the horrors of Charlottesville were equally sickening, but I think there is something different when people that are that close to the levers of power feel personally threatened. And they had, they're the people that have the lines of communication to the corporate elite as well. So I think that there was a lot of, signaling that happened there. And a lot of these groups just decided to cut the cord. And hey, this could have long-term effects. Hallmark, which is one of the biggest employers, they're based in Kansas City, one of the biggest employers in Missouri. They said they're not going to donate to Josh Hawley anymore, who's their senator. That is a big deal and could have very long-lasting effects, because look, in 2 years, I certainly hope not, which is one of the reasons I wrote this article, but in 2 years, Republicans could take the House of Representatives, right? And Kevin McCarthy could be the Speaker of the House. How is he going to deal with the fact that this huge, pipeline of money is suddenly cut off? That I think is a motivating factor for them. And it's all the more reason that Democrats need to keep pushing to excise these types of bad actors from the political arena. I think there's no other way to get out of this, because they've shown, a lot of these people have shown themselves, they potentially were giving tours the day before the insurrection to these MAGA people around, showing them how to storm it, essentially. So yeah, you can't have bipartisanship with a political representative who wants you to be overthrown. I just don't see how that's, that you can make that work.
I'm going to go on a limb here. So I just took a note what you were saying about the you're already looking ahead to the next congressional elections, 2022. Traditionally, the party that's out of the White House does well in those midterm elections, as we've been led to believe over the last 30 years or so. And that was definitely the case in 2010, where the Tea Party had their first moment of glory when they ousted the Democrats from charge of the House, defeating Democrats across the board. I'm going to make a prediction, which I'm almost like trying to stop myself from making, because I hate it when I make predictions that are optimistic, generally a pessimistic sort. Years of rooting for Chicago sports teams will do that to you. But I'm hoping at the very least that it's different this time around in terms of what will occur in the next 2 years, because I believe the Democrats have learned the mistake they made in 2009. And I actually just wrote about this for the Reader. I've been thinking a lot about this. In 2009, there was just such this wave of jubilation at the election of Barack Obama. And there was just outpouring of happiness with that inauguration. I just was thinking about it, and the parties that night. And I do believe the Democratic Party went to sleep. And I don't believe the Democratic Party, they just fell into total love with Barack Obama. It became a cult of Obama. And the Democratic Party did not wake up until 2016 on Election Day, when Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton, and Dems everywhere realized how precious and vulnerable this democracy is. And then we saw, of course, the Women's March with the Pussy Hats in 2017 sort of signaled the fight back, the resistance, if you will, to Donald Trump. So I am hoping, Miles, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, that Dems, progressives, liberals, lefties, that whole coalition, has learned a lesson from 2009. Definitely, Joe Biden is not the charismatic figure that Barack Obama is, so people will not be swooning over him the way they swooned over Barack Obama and still swoon over the guy. So that's my prediction. What's your reaction?
I agree that that's going to be the test, is whether they can learn that lesson. And I kind of agree with you that I think that the conventional wisdom has switched within Democratic circles. It's moved essentially from that running up deficits and inflation led to Ronald Reagan and led to conservative dominance over our politics. And that was a fear, I think, that motivated Democratic politicians and policymakers for decades, since the Reagan era, essentially. And now we're finally, there is kind of a realignment of thinking of conventional wisdom, which is that Barack Obama and the Democratic Party's hesitancy and inaction and the tepidness of their policies led to Donald Trump, and that's what we have to learn from and act in accordance with, right? In order to not have the same result in another 4 years or even another 2 years, which we saw rightly in the Tea Party sweep in 2010, when the Democrats famously got shellacked, as Barack Obama said. You've got to do something different. You can't just, try the same reach across the aisle bipartisanship and pass a stimulus, but don't take credit for anything. And, there was so many missteps, I think, that the Democratic Party made. And you just look at it. This is a political question as much as it is a policy question. Of course, I want to see people's lives get better because I have, political convictions and everything myself. But I also, the way to do that is to have the Democrats not get decimated in future elections. And under Barack Obama, the Democratic Party lost over 1,000 seats across the country, state houses across the board. You can't have that and also enact anything close to a Biden agenda, right? So the only way to have any political success is to take the lesson that you just said and apply it to your politics. And the way to do that, I lay out some of this in the article, but is to embrace the things that have worked for the Democrats, right? John Ossoff ran for Senate a few years back and he lost.
Congress.
Yeah, for Congress in a special election, and he lost. And he ran on what the Democrats had traditionally been running on under Trump, is just a pretty mealy-mouthed kind of centrist agenda. This time, it was very different. He ran saying, we are going to pass $2,000 checks. We're going to do big, bold policies. These GOP senators are hypocrites that are gaming the system, and, they're rich, and we're going to look out for the poor and working class. And guess what? He won. So did Warnock. I think that's the lesson. And that's in Georgia, right? So as much as people want to say, oh, only AOC can win in, New York, whatever, it's a message. You don't have to necessarily have all the signals to progressive, so democratic socialist aligned policies. We could still run on an agenda that's about helping working people and make that very clear in your messaging. And I think that both of the Georgia Senate candidates did that. And that's one of the things I hope Democrats learn from going forward.
All right. So what do you want to hear from Joe Biden? That's the second part of your article. The first part, of course, is the monster that is Donald Trump. And by the way, before we get to that, though, you mentioned Mitch McConnell, and right before you came on, there was a headline flashed across my phone, trying to keep up with the breaking news on this show. It's really hard to do. So much news is breaking. That Mitch McConnell is signaling that he's actually he may vote for impeachment. The headline passed really quickly. But clearly, there's this, like you put it, metaphorical civil war within the Republican Party, where the Trump lovers are the base. They're the voters. But the elected officials recognize they live in a real world where if you go too far, if you go where the Trump voters are, you're not going to win any statewide elections. You're really going to be handicapped. You can't get corporate money, as you said, et cetera, and so forth. So where do you think the Republicans will go with this? Will they vote for impeachment, in your opinion, when it comes to the Senate?
I don't know. I can't. It's hard for me to imagine. They need, 16 or 17 senators?
17.
And that's hard. I mean, there's a few, obviously, I think like Murkowski and Romney and Susan Collins maybe, and a few other folks, Ben Sass and some of these other people will vote for conviction. But getting to 17, I mean, McConnell will definitely have to support it for that to happen. It's just a question of whether they want to rip off this Band-Aid now and say Trump can't run for office, federal office again, and we don't have this hanging over our heads as a party for the next 4 years, let alone, into the future. Or if we're going to continue to abide it as a party and just try to keep this coalition somehow together. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think that it would be wise for them to let Trump off the hook on this, of course, because I think it's a huge threat to our democracy, let alone to, their own self-interest as a political party. But I also am not I think that the Republican, Mitch McConnell will, is already plotting out a plan, I'm sure, of how he's going to obstruct Joe Biden at every step. And there's nothing that brings unity together in a political party like a common enemy. And I guarantee that day one, you're going to stop hearing all this stuff about the Civil War in the Republican Party. It'll still be happening, but they're going to project a unified opposition to Joe Biden and the Democrats. And I think that will do a lot of the work of kind of cohesing the party. But yeah, and so it's still hard for me to imagine them getting 17 Republican senators to vote against Trump when they've all gone along with his crazy stuff and most insane, dangerous claims he's made for all these years. To now suddenly show a backbone would be a shock to me. But I mean, I think they should do it, and I think it would be in their own best interest to do it. But we'll see very soon.
A headline is McConnell weighing impeachment says Capitol mob was provoked by Trump, and the mob was fed by lies. So yeah, I think that McConnell up to something. It would be a pretty slick move on his part, Miles, if he followed your advice. Mitch McConnell's a big listener of the show, especially when you come on.
Real quick, because you mentioned breaking news, I thought maybe the breaking news you were going to mention was that apparently on Donald Trump's long list of pardons, it includes the Tiger King himself. And the Tiger King now has a limo waiting for him to take him from jail. This is real.
You made that up.
It is true. I mean, I don't know if he's going to actually be pardoned, but he expects to be, and he has a limo waiting outside of the jail to take him to some press conference or something. So the Tiger King might be back.
Wow. I mean, that was the other thing. I mean, that's a tangent within a tangent. But all let me forget the advice you're giving to Mitch McConnell. But all the pardons, I mean, I don't know when technically Donald Trump is no longer president. I don't know. Like, does it happen the moment that Joe Biden is sworn in? I guess that's when it happens. So he could issue a pardon from Mar-a-Lago tomorrow at 4 a.m. or something. I don't know the legalities of it. I keep thinking of like different people I keep thinking that he's going to pardon Blago. Like he commuted the sentence, so Blago was let free. Okay, so now he's and I saw Blago issued a statement yesterday praising Donald Trump effusively and saying that I can't even get the words out because it's so bizarre. Like Joe Biden should give Donald Trump a medal for representing the voice of the voiceless. These lunatics in MAGA are voiceless. Anyway, when I saw that, I go, oh. I'm trying to put myself in the mind of Blago. He's trying to get something. He probably wants a pardon. You know what I mean? So he can really go on with his life, maybe run for office again, be a lawyer. I don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Tiger King and Blago got pardoned in the next 24 hours.
Really a motley crew of the Trump supporters out there. We got a wide range from Tiger King to Blago. He hosted an event before the election here that was called Blacks for Trump, which is a very troubling, problematic name for an event for the first place that could then be hosted by Blago. But it goes to show how absurd the whole situation is.
No, but yeah, it is absurd. And then there'll be some really rich people who get pardoned. I mean, who are probably paying Trump.
Exactly. We're not going to know the names of the vast majority of the people that will get pardoned. It will all be kind of political and economic favors.
All right. So going back to McConnell's maneuver, and I could see it. One, pull a bandage off the wound with an impeachment vote that prevents Donald Trump from running again. So he's off of Twitter. He can't run again. The Republican Party can slowly begin the process taking back the party from Donald Trump. And then you're absolutely correct. Just pivot and suddenly become deficit hawks and oppose absolutely everything Joe Biden does. And then so you become the party of opposition. And that, I think, is probably what they figure is the best way out of it. Cut the tie with Trump and just start opposing everything that Biden does. Is that your sense of it?
Well, the problem that they have is that if they've done these polls of Trump voters, of voters who just voted for Donald Trump, like, a few weeks ago, and they asked them who they, hold allegiance to, the Republican Party or Donald Trump. And the vast, vast majority say Donald Trump over the Republican Party. So how are you going to manage that? That's the question, I think, is whether this kind of 30% of the country or so that's just diehard Trump supporters, if they're going to be willing to get back into the GOP bandwagon. Because look, this was a record-breaking election in terms of turnout. Donald Trump activated and mobilized a lot of supporters that I don't think are necessarily would even come out for just a generic GOP candidate. I'm sure he turned off plenty of people too that ended up voting Democratic, but that's the question. It's like they're going to be in a poor situation, at least in comparison to the Democratic Party, either way, regardless of what they do. But I think that if they have any hope of kind of turning the page on this chapter, because look, Donald Trump, it was terrible. We all know this was they don't even want to be seen with him tomorrow. He's doing this big send-off thing. And, Scaramucci said he can't make it. Pence can't make it. They were all invited. Kevin McCarthy's not going. So nobody wants to be associated with this guy at all. He's at the worst, level of popularity of his entire presidency. He's toxic. So that said, 74 million people voted for him. So then how do you, kind of manage that if you're, a power player in Republican politics? I don't know. Thankfully, nobody's asking my opinion.
Well, I think the way to go for them will be the way that you said it. They'll immediately turn against everything Joe Biden proposes. So, all right, that gets to the second part of the equation. What should Joe Biden do? It's 50-50. He cannot afford to lose one vote in the Senate to pass initiatives. I'm not talking about executive orders. And it's also very close in the House. I can't remember the exact breakdown. So what do you think Joe Biden should do?
Well, I know not everyone agrees with this, and there will certainly be some pushback. I think it would be a lot of arm pulling on to Joe Manchin specifically, and even Kristen Sinema. These are kind of the two most conservative Democrats in the Senate. But you only need 51 votes to change the rules of the Senate. And so you can immediately get rid of the legislative filibuster. If you keep your caucus together, they, did this before for judicial nominees. Then McConnell did it for Supreme Court justices, so he could get, Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett through. So you can just pass with a majority vote policies that you want to enact. Right now, under Senate rules, any senator can object, and then you have a filibuster, and you got to get 60 votes. They could immediately overturn that, and they've got some time now, before any other elections are held, that if they can just pass a really comprehensive, bold agenda that's going to help working people, it's going to fulfill their campaign promises, it's going to build goodwill, and that will show what a page has been turned since the Trump years. If they do things like a $15 minimum wage, which, get to his credit, Joe Biden made a forceful case for that, and including it in the most immediate relief bill. I think it's an insanely popular policy. It passed in Florida, not exactly, the bluest of places. So you do that kind of stuff, you start to win some credit. I think people don't trust government, and that for good reason, I think, and that's been ingrained for a long time. They don't see government as a vehicle for bettering their lives. They see it as an impediment. And partially that's because of ideology and messaging that has been pushed by, again, bad actors for a long time. But it's also because government has done a shit poor job of, actually doing their job to be serving the people. And so the best way to kind of overturn that frame of thinking is to do your job and, do the things that the people want you to do. And so infrastructure, I think, will be huge. And that's one area that I think Joe Manchin can really be won over on. Look, there was a big thing under Obama that was Democrats said, we're not going to do any pork. We're going to cut all the pork out of the bills, right? And these are kind of just little handouts to representatives to make them, help their constituents so that they can feel they won something out of the bill. Under Obama, Democrats said, we don't want to do that anymore. We want, good government and all this stuff. Well, but then by doing that, then, it's almost like aldermanic privilege or prerogative or something. It's like if you take away the ability for representatives to help their constituents or at least feel like they get a win out of something, they're going to be way less likely to get behind your program. So I think Democrats should be willing to give Manchin all kinds of stuff to, name stuff after him, build bridges in West Virginia, whatever you got to do to win over the support to get some bigger goals done. And that means, tackling the climate crisis, and of course means figuring out this vaccine rollout, because it's a complete mess right now and a disaster. So doing that, and then, sending more money. Look, if there's a reason $2,000 checks are so popular, because people are broke and they want money. And even if they're not totally broke, they could use some more money. So, and we've broken the seal. We've shown that government can do that, right? People already have their bank accounts set up so that they can get direct deposits. Just start doing that stuff. And I think that that's the way that the Democrats are going to win some support. I think it was stupid. I don't think it was, super politically advantageous for Donald Trump to put his name on the checks. Like, that was his big thing, was you got to get my name on the checks, and delayed the rollout. But I think it was smart for him to claim credit for that. And I think that probably had something to do with all the support that he got in the election, is because people associated him with getting money. And, he got more working class support in 2020. So I think Democrats should take that lesson. And, under Obama and the stimulus, then they tried to kind of secretly do all these tax relief plans that people didn't even know that they were getting. Democrats should claim that at every step and say, look, we're doing this in order to make your life better. So, I mean, there's a whole, I could go on and on and on, but I think that, just be bold, right? And don't try to get, sunk into the snake charming of supposed bipartisanship, because I really don't think there's much of a chance for that. I know that McConnell and Biden are like going to church together tomorrow or something, and they're trying to be buddy, but I don't see the strategy of the GOP changing one stitch from when Obama was president.
I missed that. I actually did miss that, the going to church part. I So that's like they're substituting McConnell for Trump, because the thing is, when you usually have the transition, they don't go to church together, but the incoming president would go to the White House and meet the outgoing president, and their spouses would be there, and they would ride together to the inauguration. I remember Obama doing that with Trump, and Obama doing that with W, and W doing that with Clinton, et cetera, and so forth. So now, I guess, as a substitute for Trump, he's going to meet with McConnell. Wow, what a weird stuff. All right, we'll close with this question. Bernie's role in all this. Miles Kampf-Lassin, as everybody knows who listens to him on this show, big Bernie supporter, as was I. I'm not dumping on Bernie just because he lost. So what do you think Bernie's role is going to be in the coming months?
Well, he's got a very influential role, in fact, because because the Democrats won those races in Georgia, there's a whole, the landscape is very different than it was in 2009. In 2009, Financial Services Committee, I think it was Chris Dodd, right? Which is why it was the Dodd-Frank Act. And he is a big, credit card guy, centrist Dem. Now it's Sherrod Brown. The banking committee, I forget who it was before, but it was another kind of centrist, a debt hawk, actually, was the head of the budget committee when Obama came in. Now the head of the budget committee is going to be Bernie Sanders. And so from that role, he oversees the one area in American politics, or at least in congressional legislating, where you can use a 51 vote majority to pass big stuff. And that's budget reconciliation. It's a, whatever, it's a kind of, it basically is a rule in which you can get things passed that you are reconciling the budget. And so you can do things that relate to budgetary measures. And that includes things like passing a $15 minimum wage. It includes things like sending out survival checks. It includes all kinds of parts of the Biden economic program. So Bernie's going to be overseeing that. And my prediction is, we'll see what happens, but my prediction is they'll do some play at trying to get 9 Republicans to support this initial plan that Biden laid out last week, this $1.9 trillion immediate relief package. They said they're going to try to get it bipartisan. Not going to happen. No chance. They might get like 1 or 2, maybe, but I doubt that. I think McConnell's going to be good at holding his caucus together. And then, and then it's going to be up to Bernie to figure out how to get that through budget reconciliation. And I think that's immediately where they should pivot as soon as it's clear, like day one, would be like, forget all that. How much can we do through this, this process? So I think that's a great role for Bernie, because I mean, he made a play for labor secretary that didn't work out, understandably. I mean, they need to keep their majority in the Senate for right now. But as head of the budget committee, he can do a lot to improve working people's lives, much as he would have in the labor department. And I think we should ready ourselves for a very different, we should have different expectations of what government is going to do versus, look, we were all worried for 4 years there's going to be another like Muslim ban coming up or something. We're going to be operating in a different, state of affairs now, where it's going to be more on offense rather than worrying about horrible things that government can do. How do you push government to do the most they possibly can to fulfill the goals of the stuff even that Bernie ran on? I mean, Biden says he wants to be the most progressive president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This is a prime time to show that commitment. And so I think Bernie's going to try to hold him to that. I think Bernie's supporters will have that expectation. And so, it's up to Joey B to come through.
Yeah. By the way, I'm so happy that Bernie didn't get labor. I can't tell you. I was like, no, come on. Being a part of the Biden team for Bernie Sanders was not a good fit. I love that he's to chair a budget. Much more, in my opinion, power than being labor secretary. Marty Walsh, I'm sure, will be a fine labor secretary. I'm hoping he'll be a fine labor secretary. So, yes, Bernie, I'm so happy. I know you wanted it, apparently, but I'm glad he didn't get it. All right, Miles, thank you very much.
Miles, actually, we did, and actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask a favor from you, Miles, if you didn't mind.
Lay it on me.
All right, cool. February 27th will be our 2-year anniversary as a podcast. And what I'm having our guests do is I'm having them, like on the radio, hi, my name is Miles Kampf-Lassin. I'd ask you to do this. My name's Miles Kampf-Lassin, and I want to wish the Ben Joravsky Show a happy 2-year anniversary. Would you be cool with doing something like that?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Cool.
Right now?
Yeah, we'll do it right now. I'll give you a countdown, and then you just say, hey, it's Miles Kampf-Lassin. Say whatever you want, okay?
Okay, lay it on.
All right, cool. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go for it.
Hey, everybody. This is Miles Kampf-Lassin, a writer and editor in These Times magazine and a frequent guest of the Ben Joravsky Show. Just want to wish both Ben and Dr. D a very happy 2 years, a very vital source of information in this, troubled time. And, there's very few media sources you can rely on for quality content the way you can from the Ben Joravsky Show. So happy birthday.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, that was really good. The guy, I saw him do it. He just whipped it. He didn't have it written or anything.
That was really sweet.
That was really good.
Oh, and hey, go Dolphins.
Hey, I appreciate that. And I got to give a shout out because I told Ben this earlier. I finally watched the great series City So Real and was very happy to not only see Ben Joravsky on the screen, but also heard Dr. D.
Yeah. I watched that the other day too, and I'm like, oh wow, that's okay, cool. That's exactly how I'd want to be in a movie. You can just hear me, perfect.
Yeah, no, that was from the shoot that was in the studio with Ricky Hendon, dear friend of this show, former state senator Ricky Hendon, and that was back in the old days before I got fired at the radio station. So yeah, Steve James, we did a whole series on City So Real, Miles. We did, was it 4 or 5 parts? Brought in different people who were from the show. I had Steve James on, Ricky Hendon was on, Mace Jackson was on, the Tuttons from the Hideout were on, and Neil Salas Griffin was on. So I was really moved by that TV show. I thought it was a great show, and I'm now urging everybody to watch One Night in Miami. We're going to do a whole series on that one as well. I've already started reaching out to guests. Really powerful show about black men, basically. Sam Cooke. I mean, these are legends, icons. Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, and Muhammad Ali. How can I forget the great Muhammad Ali, my hero when I was a kid? So great. Regina King, man, what a great director, great movie. So we're probably going to do a whole special on that. Unfortunately, I'm not in that movie. It's so real. So anyway, Miles, stay safe, stay sound. We'll talk to you real soon, all right?
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, that's the great Miles Kampf-Lassin. DNA updates before we head out that door?
Absolutely, I do. Once again, yes, our anniversary, 2-year anniversary, Ben. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. The flowers are in the mail.
Oh.
Wait, time out. We still have a month, right?
Yeah, but hey, come on. We're selling it here, pal. Come on. It's coming up.
Bring those flowers back. Not for another month, okay?
February 27th. Put it in the freezer like that cake from...
Oh my God, the cake! Get that.
It's going to be on February 27th. That's on a Saturday. We're going to drop a special 2-year anniversary show. I got some stuff in mind, so be on the lookout for that. All right, you were just talking about City So Real. Let's go to City So Weird. I'm talking about the weirdness in Winnetka.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Oh, my God. I forgot. I said, don't. I forgot it. Yes.
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Oh, God.
Matthew Hendrickson and apparently a bunch of others. A North Suburban clothing shop that installed a QAnon-themed window display last spring is owned by the wife of the CEO of At Properties, the real estate firm that fired an agent who attended the March to Save America that devolved into a riot in the nation's capital. The company announced it was immediately terminating the agent, Libby McCarthan Andrews, over social media posts she made about, quote, storming the Capitol for President Donald Trump on January 6th in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, so much to discuss here. I want to give a shout out to Matthew Hendrickson. Great job. I used to do stories like this all the time, D. These bizarre, we call them neighborhood news. Every now and then I would venture out of the city, but mostly it was in Chicago. Just strange stories about Chicago. Well, they weren't always strange, but stories that kind of reveal the side of Chicago or the neighborhood or the personalities, the quirky people that live in Chicago. This is a classic story of what? Do as I say, not as I do. It's why, when I try to think about a logic that would govern somebody to join the Trump cult, it would be how unfair and inconsistent the world is. And this story just sums it all up. As we all know, QAnon is the whacked out weirdo political movement of sorts that what is it? How do I say it? They believe that there's a secret satanic cult of pedophiles who are controlling government and that Donald Trump is the chief form of resistance. Just want to point out that Donald Trump was good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so it's whacked out on that front right there. I mean, it's so bizarre to think that a significant number of Americans have signed on to that. At the same time, I've been living a long time. I've seen all kinds of cults come and go. I've seen all kinds of weirdo movements come and go. So I shouldn't be surprised by anything. But this is a real political force. Some of the people who stormed the Capitol last week were QAnon supporters. I think there's at least one congressperson that got elected. Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is an advocate of QAnon. So it's out there. It's potent. It's real. And apparently the woman who's married to the head of At Properties is a believer in it. I say apparently because it's one of these things, D. One of these, like, if you're rich, you get a spokesperson to cover it all up for you. So the head of At Properties is everybody. I don't know if you know this, but they're like the biggest real estate company or one of the big real estate companies in the Chicagoland area. You know, little at thing, properties, little at thing, hence. Anyway, they're everywhere. They're powerful. So the wife of the owner runs a boutique in Winnetka, a fashion store. Now, Winnetka, I'm going to help you out here. For our geographically challenged listeners, is a suburb, a really rich suburb north of Chicago. So I will now do it. It's Evanston, Wilmette,
nice.
I believe Kenilworth, and then Winnetka.
Ooh.
I believe that's the lineup.
Yes.
I think it is. The thing is like, it's kind of a weird thing. I'm North Shore. I moved to Evanston when I was in 6th grade, and I lived in Evanston throughout high school. So I know the North Shore, but I always get mixed up. Winnetka and Kenilworth. Like, which one is next? You know what I'm saying? They got some issues with that. I got to really work that out.
I think it goes Winnetka, then Kenilworth.
I think
Wilmette, Winnetka, Kenilworth. I could be wrong.
Definitely you're not North Shore. You're from Alton.
I ride my bike around there all the time.
North Shore guy. Dennis, I went to Evanston High School, okay? Very proud of that fact. And I passed freshman algebra. A stunning moment in my academic career. Anyway, so, it's like Gentile, Winnetka. You get this notion that people in Winnetka would not like Donald Trump. No, this lady's got this boutique. She's a QAnon themed display with a mannequin with a QAnon hat. Like, why did she think that was appropriate? So anyway, they get caught. Now, as Dennis pointed out, the inconsistencies of the world, some real estate agent who was at the insurrection got fired, right? Isn't that what you said, D? So they fired the real estate agent. Meanwhile, the boss's wife with the QAnon thing, hello, little inconsistent there. Here's the official statement from the media representative. They have a spokesperson, okay, D? I'm going to get a spokesperson whenever the media calls me. You're going to be my spokesperson, all right? All questions will go through Dr. D. I think you could do a better job than the spokesperson. The spokesperson spokesman pointed to posts that Kelly Golden, that's the CEO's wife, made on social media, in which she said a friend of a friend asked her to display the information and gave her the QAnon braces. She said she did not know the theory's origins, but displayed the information anyway. An acquaintance introduced me to someone, and they asked if I would put this sign in one of my windows. The day we had to close our shop, I trusted the simplicity of the statement, remain calm, which is a QAnon statement, during the unprecedented time. I don't know, D, what do you think? Do you buy that? Do you think that she really didn't know that she was putting up some QAnon stuff? It's kind of throwing that friend under the bus. Isn't that the thing? The unnamed friend. D, it's like one of those things. Did Lori Lightfoot not really know about Anjanette Young? Like she said she did in her press statement. Did Johnny Canizera, the Fraternal Order of Police, not really know the full extent of what was going down at the Capitol when he told the reporter from BEZ, oh, come on, it's just a bunch of guys having fun? Did Bruce Rauner really cry when the verdict came in on Laquan McDonald? Okay, these are just some of the things. They say stuff and you got to wonder, is it true? Did Rahm Emanuel never see the Laquan McDonald video? Well, first time I ever heard of it. I don't know. We live at a time where truth, it's like a huge chunk of the Republican Party believes that Donald Trump actually won the election that he obviously lost. So it's really hard to know what's true when everybody's lying all the time or believing lies. I don't know. I saw this story and I just thought so many things. Number one, wealth can buy you a lot, and so it can buy you respectability. So all these people out of Winnetka, I wonder how many QAnon supporters are out in Winnetka. They don't make fun of people from Winnetka like they make fun of Trump voters from downstate. But apparently, They think it's really cool. The QAnon hat. You know, wow, it's a really hip style. And the mannequin is so skinny. Do you see the picture? Like, I admit I'm not really into fashion, but just like they're really sort of, this notion, it's like she's bulimic or something. There's some kind of weird thing going on in Winnetka clothing shops.
I don't know if I've ever seen a fat mannequin.
I like a mannequin with a little, at least suggests that there's a little chunkiness there, okay? That's how most people are. No, not in Winnetka. We're all skinny. We're all super thin and in great shape because we do yoga every minute of the day and then starve ourselves. We live in Winnetka, which is the suburb just north of Wilmette. We're even richer than the people in Wilmette. People are going to know, wait a minute, is Winnetka where Rahm Emanuel came from? Good question, listeners. The answer is no. Former mayor of the city of Chicago is from Wilmette, not Winnetka. Thank you for asking.
See how he does that, guys? Where he's like talking to himself, but like talking to you too. It's pretty cool, right?
I'm as nutty as those QAnon supporters. I talk to myself. Hi, Ben. How are you doing today? I'm doing really well. How are you doing? Really good. I'm going to sing a song to myself. Okay.
Ladies,
I'm going to have an imaginary phone conversation with Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis. Hi, Ben. No, I'm just saying we're not a bunch of hypocrites.
They promise they won't tax retirement income if their constitutional amendment passes.
It's like 4 Phyllises today.
Phyllis, heck of a job, Phyllis. Of course, retiree from, Park Ridge. Helped defeat the fair tax. Heck of a job, Phyllis. Good job. Yeah, and good job, all you voters on the Northwest Side, for voting against it, because you heard a Phyllis commercial.
So, ladies and gentlemen, someone in Winnetka has those documents. That is the latest in the weirdness in Winnetka.
Yeah.
And
Winnetka.
no live stream.
No
live stream chat, listener Doogie. I didn't ride my bike around Lake Michigan. That was Mayor Rahm.
I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles.
Okay.
That's today's show. Guys. Make sure to follow us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. And yes, we have a phone number, 708-658-4788. That number again is 708-658-4788. 788. You can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. And hey, if you download, check us out on the live stream chat sometimes, Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time, Chicago Reader YouTube channel.
I want to thank Miles Kampf-Lassin, the pride and joy of Whitney Young, our In These Times ace editor reporter. Great job as he always does. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of all Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. And it's Miles Kampf-Lassin, Phyllis, and all the QAnon supporters of Winnetka will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles. Nearly 1,000 miles. Nearly 1,000 miles. I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles.